It's 11 minutes past 9. Kathleen McNamee of COYGIG is with us to talk to us about the Republic of Ireland's 2 upcoming friendlies against the USA. A nice handy one for us. You know, we expect to win both these routine 3-0 victories for us, right? Against one of these kind of... Do they even play football in America?
No, not at all. They hate football over there. It's going to be interesting. We talked a bit about it on COYGIG this week about what we actually expect from this game, and the general consensus was first game, go out, actually play, try and, you know, make it as close to World Cup conditions as possible, and then maybe second game, test a few players, you know, try a couple of different formations, a couple of different setups, and just give players game time, because there are quite a few players in the squad who aren't getting consistent game time at the moment. So that's going to be something for Vera Pauw to test out, and I suppose see what sort of legs are in the team at the moment.
Do you think they agree in advance with the USA? Will you play your strongest team in this one and we'll mix it up, or is it as are they as simpatico as that?
I don't know. I've heard it depends on the team, I think, sometimes. So sometimes coaches do have close relationships and they do have these conversations. I remember Serena Wiegman saying once that she had it when she was working with Netherlands, that she knew certain coaches on the circuit, and you'd go into certain international breaks and say, okay, this is what we're going to do, or this is what I want from this game. But I also think it depends, like, you know, the way we played Germany and China the last time in the last international break, like that Germany game, there obviously was some sort of agreement, because the first half, it was behind closed doors for one. First half, we played our strongest side and they played their slightly weaker side, and then the second half, this 2 teams swapped. So in a situation like that, there's obviously been some conversation between the coaches to say, okay, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to test
they both
that.
want to get the most out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas, say, with the China friendly, I don't know how much of a conversation went into that. So I think there is a difference if it's like a behind closed doors game, or if it's a fully televised, like stole out stadium sort of a international friendly.
And what do we expect in terms of numbers from the US? Just in case anybody was unaware, we're being completely facetious. These are incredibly difficult friendlies against one of the greatest teams in the world, an absolute powerhouse, and generally massive support for the USA whenever they play at home.
Yeah, so I think they're looking at probably like 20,000-30,000 for the 2 games, hopefully. That's the capacity of the stadiums anyways, and from what I've seen, the ticket sales are going quite well. I'd say the Saturday game is much more likely to get a bigger crowd, because not only is it Denise O'Sullivan's 100th cap, and she's a massive figure over in the US for her time in the NWSL. Julie Ertz, who's one of the US's big players, she is also having a big cap anniversary. I think she might be 100 as well. She's just been brought into the squad after quite a bit of time away, and it's also Saturday afternoon. I think it's 2:30 US time, so it's much more favourable compared to 7:30 on a Tuesday evening. But yeah, I think it should be a big crowd. There's some talk that Adeleke might turn up, because she's in the University of Texas, and also the AFLW All-Stars are going to the game on Saturday as well. Amber Barrett was doing pressers last night, and she was asked about whether someone said, you know, there's fair few Donegal girls on the team, and she was joking that she'd asked Vera would she be allowed to line up with the All-Stars, but she hadn't got an answer yet.
So who's who of Irish sport turning up then? Like, it's fascinating the choice of really strong opposition. Seems to be a Vera Pauw method. I know I was listening to her talk during the week before Euro 2009 with the Dutch. They were playing Germany. I think they got thrashed by Germany, but ended up in the tournament then getting all the way to close to the final as well. So it's a ploy that works. Turns out playing good opposition helps.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a very clear difference in the squad from that win against Australia in Tala, and the sort of opposition that we've played since then. And Vera Pauw has been very clear. Like, when I was talking to her over in Marbella, when the China friendly was happening, she was saying that she's planned every single opponent that we face. So like she wanted to face Germany because of their like technical ability and their skill. She wanted to face China because a lot of the Chinese players aren't the sort of players that anyone on the Ireland squad would ever face. She wanted to face the US because they're the best in the world. She wanted to face France because they're also one of the best in the world. She wanted to face, you know, all these different teams for different reasons and why they're going to support us and help us. So like the US would play quite a similar style of football to Canada. So we have faced Canada in our World Cup group, but we don't necessarily want to play them now a couple of months out from the World Cup. So it's interesting to see. And it's interesting if you look at like who the other teams in our group are facing, they're kind of doing similar stuff. So like Canada are playing France, Australia are facing Scotland and England. I presume that's partly because a lot of their squad are based over there as well. And then Nigeria are playing Haiti and New Zealand. So you can kind of see where the teams are coming from in terms of the opposition that they're picking.
And look, I think it's a testimony that we're able to get fixtures against the USA, because they could pretty much pick anybody they wanted, and obviously they feel like we'll sell some tickets for them too. So two big games. We'll get into the nitty gritty of the games in a few minutes, but we did want to talk about something else that came up in the Amber Barrett conversation. There's been a move in all sport globally towards dark shorts as opposed to white shorts for women. The English football team, I think, are debuting their new dark shorts this week. I think Wimbledon have announced that they're going to allow dark shorts, and it's basically everywhere because everybody understands that dark shorts are better, and it has come up in conversation repeatedly over the last number of years. Amber Barrett was asked about this, right? Mm-hmm. And what did she say? Because you were on this call yesterday when she was talking about it.
Yeah, so it was John Fallon from the Examiner who asked the question, but she was asked, was it a thing that the Irish team were interested in? We actually have a clip of her giving her answer to it, which was quite interesting. But basically she was asked, do the Irish team want to wear dark shorts? Is this something that's going to come in their future, especially with the World Cup approaching?
Yeah, well, to be perfectly honest with you, it's not a conversation we've directly had. I think, we have just had the changeover from Umbro to Castori, and hopefully that the next, over the next while, that is something that, hopefully for all women's teams, that will be something that will be part and parcel of their kits. So hopefully that is something that comes down the line now. I'm not, to be honest with you, John, I'm not completely sure what the standpoint is with here, if it's possible, but I'm sure it is if the conversation's had.
Was there something you'd like to see?
Yeah, of course. I think it would make every woman's life a lot easier.
Right. So that was yesterday in the press conference. What time did that happen?
That was around 5:30, 6 o'clock yesterday evening. And
then a statement came through from the FAI afterwards.
Yeah, so afterwards everyone was like, oh, that's interesting. And a lot of people were saying, it's a certain news story we're going to run. And the FAI said, the Football Association of Ireland can confirm that following discussions with the Ireland women's national team players, that the team will wear the traditional green jersey, white shorts and green socks as part of the new Castori home kit. The FAI consulted with the senior leadership group within the squad and with management on the possibility of switching the colour of the shorts, but with the supply of protective underwear, the players felt that staying with white shorts was the preferred option.
Which doesn't really tally with the exact testimony we've just had from one of the players. Now, I don't know, is Amber Barrett not in the senior leadership group? Is it? She said it's something we haven't actually talked about. Maybe immediately afterwards, because it came up in the conversation and that hadn't been predicted as a line of questioning, which it should really have been predicted as a line of questioning. They did then subsequently consult with the players, but it would make everybody's, I can't remember the exact line that Amber Barrett just told us, it would make every woman's life easier or something along the lines. So this just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't seem to follow on logically that, like, there's a movement in the world, we've asked somebody for their opinion, they've given their opinion, everybody else is going this direction, and the FAI consulted with the senior leadership group within the squad and management on the possibility of switching the colour of the shorts, and they've said no, that staying with white shorts was the preferred option.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty certain that Amber Barrett isn't in the senior leadership group. From what I understand, it's Katie McCabe, Denise O'Sullivan, Louise Quinn and Niamh Fahey, when she's not in the camp at the moment because she is injured. It's a weird one because I've heard a few of the team talk maybe like outside of the actual Irish setup about this. Emma Carroll actually sent me just before we came on a panel discussion that Louise Quinn did with her sport, saying, it's a conversation that she's had many times in many different forms, and that it is something that could be a lot more comfortable for women and girls, and again, it is personal preference to a certain level. Like, some people don't care at all, and other people it does make a big difference. It just seems weird that somewhere the message is getting lost, where there has been this, the FAI are saying there has been this discussion with players on the team, but then there are also other players on the team being like, no, we haven't directly had this conversation. I'm sure they've had it like in between themselves, was the impression I got from Amber Barrett, but that there wasn't a more rounded conversation with the entire squad. And I think that is important too, because Sinead O'Carroll was on the weekend show here talking about it a couple of weeks ago, and she tweeted about it as well, saying that in her squad the GA team she plays with, they had a conversation and they decided to stick with white shorts, but implement other things. So like more sanitary bins or more options of like how you would actually get products in the team, and talking about these things and saying to players, you know, if you're not feeling great, okay, well, like, let's look into how we can do better training around your period or whatever it is. And she was like, that's how we decided to approach it as a squad. So it seems to be that there are conversations happening within the FAI, but they're just not filtering down in maybe the way that they should be.
Or like in the absence of the players coming out and saying, no, we fully agree with the white shorts, right? Because this is a statement from the press office. In the absence of that, speculation will be that there's a dispute between Castore and the FAI, or that they're not going to have enough kit ready in time for it, or what comes out then is like speculation as opposed to, particularly because we just had testimony from one of the players saying it would be better if we didn't have the white shorts, and then immediately afterwards there's a statement from the FAI saying we're going to have the white shorts.
It definitely probably raised more questions than, like, it's a sort of thing where even I think if the statement hadn't have come out last night and then they had actually taken the time to talk to the squad and then they were like, this came up and we've had a conversation and this is how we feel, it was just so, like, I looked it up there just to double check. It was about an hour and a half after the press conference ended that the statement came through, and there was other pressers on afterwards too, so probably only realistically like an hour or so after it all ended. It's just it was a very interesting timing, and the fact that Amber, in the way that she normally is, she's a very honest player, but she was very emphatic in it. There wasn't really a question in her mind of, she was like, yeah, no, it would make my life better. And it's interesting too, because so obviously now all the new kits are coming out for the World Cup for the teams that get specific World Cup kits, and Nike released theirs, and theirs have built in like specific supports for women. So, you know, like in certain men's shorts you almost have like a second pair of underwear inside of them for support. These are basically similar enough, and it's like a second pair in there that have special technology, I suppose, in them that make sure you don't leak. And the hope is for Nike that they're going to then extend that and roll that into other parts of their normal everyday kit. So like, this is the sort of stuff, these are the sort of conversations that are happening with certain countries and certain kit manufacturers. So there are a lot of different avenues to pursue, and you would hope that those conversations were being happen. Yeah,
it's an opportunity to innovate, and you would hope that Castore are taking that opportunity to innovate. But it just felt like there was a bit of dissonance between what we heard and then what we were told, and it's pretty easily fixed and certainly cleared up over the next while. Now, we are joined by Méabh de Búrca, former Republic of Ireland international. Méabh, all the way from Argentina this morning for us. These fixtures against the United States, from a player's perspective, it doesn't really get any better. Obviously, the World Cup is going to be the absolute peak, but a build-up against the United States is a big opportunity for somebody to write their name in pen in Vera Pauw's team sheet.
Yeah, that's it exactly. Good morning to you. But yeah, the games against the World Cup champions, you know, you can't get much bigger than that, like you said, aside from the major tournament itself. But you know, they're 4-time World Cup winners, 4-time Olympic champions. So it really is the biggest test for the squad. But like you said, it's a huge, I suppose, opportunity for the girls, Irish girls, to write their names, to make sure they're on the plane to Australia.
There's also, I suppose, a bit of trepidation because, as you say, 4 times World Cup champions, 4 times Olympic champions. Somebody might have a bad game against somebody and therefore manage to get out of the team.
That's it. The Americans are so fine, you know, and I suppose if that was to happen, it could, they could play themselves out of the squad, unfortunately, as well. And you know, given there's only 23 spaces, you know, in the squad for the tournament, then it's really, I suppose, every play counts within the games, and that's the main thing. I suppose they'll be hoping not to make mistakes. But on the flip side, then the US, they're going to be all. This is their last international camp as well before the squad is picked. You know, from their point of view, they're going to be all guns blazing, as if they don't already approach every game like that. There's going to be even more incentive for the Americans as well.
Important as well, Maeve, that some of these players that aren't in get back in, because you look at the absentees from the squad: Niamh Fahey, Chloe Mustaki, Ellen Malloy, Jess Yu and Leanne Kiernan. Megan Campbell out for personal reasons as well. So as Vera Pauw pointed out this week, they need to get back in and playing as soon as possible, because it's really not that far away.
No, it's not. It's creeping up now, day by day. I think, and those girls are vital parts of the squad. Niamh Fahey in particular will be very important for her to get back in. She's such a vital cog for Ireland, and Megan as well. And like that, it just gives the girls now, I suppose, who are in the squad at the moment, know that these players are, if they're fit, they'll be on the plane. So I suppose this is their opportunity just to stake the claim. But like you said, there's important girls missing as well.
On that question about who's be on the team, Amber Barrett talked about it a little bit last night, Maeve, saying, there's 27 players that Vera Pauw has brought over. There's the extra 2 that are meeting up with the squad there. And Amber herself was kind of saying, I haven't had a lot of playing time. And we were asking, are you worried about that? Do you think there are players in this? I know everyone has to be a little bit on edge because of the stakes that are there, but are there any players, do you think, that should be particularly worried? Or, as someone like Lucy Quinn, who had been pretty much a stalwart in the squad, just about made it on the plane. I think she got her call up on Sunday evening and they flew on Monday morning.
Yeah, I think I would imagine close to half the squad themselves are probably, really nervous as such, just to make the squad. I wouldn't say there's, aside from the starting 11, are close to maybe, I suppose, 13 players who would be playing regularly. Like, Vera doesn't tend to change the starting lineup a whole lot. Like I said there, Amber wouldn't have been getting much game time, but I mean, she's made such an impact off the bench that I myself would think that she'd be a definite on the plane. But like you said, the girls, I suppose they'll just have to take opportunities in training if they don't come within the match scenarios. I'm sure they've been watched by all the coaching staff, not just Vera, within the training sessions. And it's a long enough camp that I suppose there's a lot goes on that we won't see only on match day. We're making our judgments based off what we see in the 90 minutes, but I'd say they're obviously taking into account everything. Even their interactions around the group, within how they are off pitch interactions, and how important they can be within the squad setting, especially when you're heading to a tournament that you're going to be together for weeks on end. I think it's important to get the right balance of characters within a squad as well.
On that point, right, how difficult is it, or what would the atmosphere be like if somebody gets catapulted in from nowhere to the squad at this point?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one. I mean, it's really the people, I suppose, that's going to affect the most is the girl who's left at home without, been on the plane, and then, she's just replaced instantly. But I suppose it's cutthroat. International football is cutthroat, and we've seen it there. Vera isn't afraid to add to the squad, but personally, I think if they're a starter or that, I think it would be easier for others to accept it almost. Whereas if they're just coming along as a squad player to replace a girl who's been part of the the campaigns over the years in qualifying and that, I think that would be more difficult to see. But I can't foresee that would happen at this stage.
Yeah, we will wait with bated breath. What would good results be in the 2 games, Maeve?
I suppose a damage limitation given the calibre of the opponents, but I mean a draw would be massive. I'm pretty sure he's never got a result against the US. Usually it can be in the past would have been high scores. I remember we did get, I think, maybe a 2-0 or 3-0 as well at times, but it's like I said, it's great preparation for the games against Australia, Canada in particular, and Nigeria. Like they'll be I suppose they'll be just setting up in a similar way. Their focus will be on how they'll be setting up in the World Cup. So I'd expect to see a low block, and a result, a draw will be great, but sure, we can always dream of a win. Who knows? Anything is possible, really.
All right, Maeve, great to have you on. Thanks a million for joining us. Cheers.
Thanks a lot, guys.
It's Méabh de Búrca there, former Republic of Ireland international.
I heard Maeve saying there that she expects a low block, and I could just hear Karen Duggan in my head being like, a low block, not a low block, anything but a low block. She's very against the low. Well, she's not against it, but she's a bit tired of seeing it with the Irish team, as any COYGIG listeners will know.
Yeah, we are definitely going to see that though in this game, right?
100%.
That's her identity as a manager. That's what Vera Pauw wants this Ireland team to be like, and there's definitely an argument for it, right?
There is, but I also do get the frustration with some of the former players or people who watched this team for a while, where you're like, we do have talent there. Like, Vera has got this team to a level of confidence that we have probably never seen before, and the idea that we can actually play good football when we want to, and that we don't have to persist with the low block, that we can actually release some of those players and do something really magical. And if we're going to try it at any time, now is the time. You know, when we have all these warm-up games, this is the time to try these things. Doesn't work. That's why you have 2 games in an international window. That's why you have behind closed doors games. You know, there are opportunities to try these things, and I suppose it would just be nice to see a little bit of creativity from the squad.
Funny, you see names like Alex Morgan and Lindsay Horan being thrown around for obvious reasons, but like the reality is, you forget that some of these Irish players, quite a few of them are used to playing against players of that calibre in the WSL. And I know we have Australia up first in the World Cup in the small matter of Sam Kerr, but they have players, Ireland, that are capable of dealing with these girls as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, particularly Denise O'Sullivan. Whenever you listen to any of the US players talk about her, it's like she is one of the best players in the world. Like, she is world class. I remember, like, when I worked with ESPN, which is obviously a like US based outlet, and interviewing the likes of Crystal Dunn and Sam Ewis, and I would always be there trying to get my like little Irish question in at the end. But a lot of time you'd ask them about someone like Denise O'Sullivan, and they would just be like, never had a teammate like her, never played against someone like her. She is an absolute workhorse, but she is 100% there for the team. And obviously it's a big weekend for her as well, because she's going to make her 100th cap on Saturday. Rumour has it she's also going to captain the team, take over the armband from Katie McCabe for the event, which I don't think anyone would take as a massive surprise either way. But Amber Barrett was saying last night that playing with Denise O'Sullivan is the sort of thing you tell your grandkids about. You know, it's a privilege and an honour, and something that she's very glad she had the opportunity to do.
She'll be 29, making her 100th appearance for Ireland. For context, Robbie Keane was 30 when he made his 100th appearance, and he was obviously a prodigy in the team from the time he was 17 as well. So it's an incredible achievement for her, and as you say, genuinely world class as well. To go back to the question that we were asking there about players being parachuted in, Sinead Farrelly is the one who is the name at the moment who's training with the team. Is this training with a view to something after the World Cup? Is it because she happens to be like on the same continent? What's going on here, do you think?
It's an interesting one, because Vera alluded to it in her press conference on Friday. She said, you know, there's someone who's going to come into... We asked her, are there any more players coming in? Because obviously she's already brought in quite a few new names. And she said there's one player that's going to train with the team for 3 or 4 days while we're over there, because we just want to see where she's at. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, Sinead Farrelly hasn't played professional football for 8 years. She was one of the main whistleblowers for the NWSL abuse scandal. She was the one who came forward about the former Portland Thorns coach Paul Riley, and once she stopped playing with Portland Thorns back in 2015, she didn't play again. So she's 33 now. She just signed a new contract about 2 weekends ago with Gotham. She got her first 20 minutes of professional football at the weekend against Oil Rain. That was a 2-0 defeat for Gotham. So very interesting one. I mean, from what Vera said on Friday, I got the impression that this is someone who could come into the team at some stage. But then when I saw who the player actually was, I was very surprised, because Vera is big on, you know, you should be getting minutes. And this is someone who hasn't played for 8 years. And when Sarah Rowe alluded to the fact that, you know, maybe she might be interested in getting into the World Cup squad, there was quite a lot of people being like, you haven't played soccer in a long time. And I don't know. I'd be interested to see what the reaction was. I mean, if she comes in and she plays really well, I don't think there's any arguments to say that she can't play for us, but I would just be very interested to see what some of the home-based reaction would be to that.
For context for people, we can submit a list of 50 players a couple of days before that Zambia friendly in June, which is huge. But then, of course, it has to be pared back significantly.
Yeah, it has to be brought back down to 23 for the actual World Cup, which a lot of coaches aren't happy about. They wanted it to be raised to 26. So, yeah, I mean, it could be someone who is good to have in the squad for the next couple of months and plays some of the friendlies or helps the squad train. But I would be massively surprised if she makes the World Cup squad. I mean, for me, the main player that has been brought in so far that I can see making the squad is Aoife Mannion.
She's a centre back.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Is there a possibility that they're looking at Farrelly as somebody who can join the squad after the World Cup? I mean, given the age profile, it's probably unlikely, but
I feel like it's unlikely. 33 is quite, it's, you know, it's on the kind of side of you're slowly making your way out of a team, especially she's a midfielder as well, so
not a lot of miles on the clock though, you know, like could easily play 4 years at a professional level and decide that actually coming over and playing in the Euros is something that is of interest to her, you know.
Yeah, or the new Nations League that's coming up. No, there's plenty of opportunity, and I mean it's an incredible story, everything that herself and Manashim went through over the last couple of years, and now to see both of them back playing professional football after so long out, I mean, all credit to the two of them. And you know, I hope the camp is a good experience for her, and I mean, I'm sure it is. They're a great bunch of girls in general. But yeah, I've seen some of the anger in general at the few dual players that have been brought in already, especially at like domestic level. So I would be interested to see if there would be a little bit of controversy if Sinead Farrelly was brought in more permanently. All
right, we shall see. Kathleen, good stuff. When's this week's episode up?
It's already up.
There you go. This week's episode of COYGIG available. Just search COYGIG wherever you get your podcasts. OTB AM live with Gillette Labs got the ultimate shave or your money back Neon Night edition available now. On tomorrow's programme, Paul Galvin, Tommy Walsh, Masters with Joe Malloy, and Champions Cup build up, plenty more as well. A big reaction to our, I think Munster fans are entitled to cheer for Leicester. Why would a Munster fan cheer Leinster's opposition, asks Tom F1 Dublin 1. Why would any Irish Rugby fan not cheer an Irish provincial team? Absolutely disgraceful. As a Leinster fan, I cheer all Irish teams. Shocking. I mean, that's kind of my point, you know.
Are you saying Leinster fans are more sophisticated, Ger? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that like your privilege as a Leinster fan is something that you need to be aware of.
So it's easy to be nice when you're winning.
Exactly. Like all of the resources, all of the coaching, and I am a Leinster fan, but I would actually prefer if Munster fans were not happy. Like anyway.
As an Arsenal fan, I can confirm this is the nicest I've been in about 10 years.
And have you ever cheered for Chelsea in a Champions League final?
Not a chance.
Like, or Man United or Liverpool?
Tottenham.
No.
Like, that's the whole point of rivalry. It's not like, oh, my team are gone, so I wish you all the very best.
Yeah, but you wouldn't, you wouldn't go to those games. You know, you
wouldn't go to a Champions League final if you got it, or like if it was in your country or in your city, you wouldn't go to watch high quality sport.
I would, yeah.
This is your sport that you're mad about. There's no.
If I'm at a snooker match and I really actively dislike the player, I don't start shouting. So, come on. Like
okay, it's not. This isn't snooker.
It's not snooker, but regardless in sport, I think it's.
Do what John Egan's mum did against Portugal, wore a Portugal jersey just so she could get into the game.
Oh wow!
Next level stuff.
You can catch that interview on Off the Ball channels.
The IRFU broke the model which made rugby in Limerick successful, says David Valerie. They'll say it was worth it because Dublin schools are producing enough for the Irish team, but Munster fans have a chip. Go Leicester. I mean, I understand. All of the reasons why you might say that. As a Munster fan, I'm insulted by the last 5 seasons. Never mind trying to choose teams, says Danny Mac 1. Munster fans, some cheek to complain about representation when you look at their performances. As a Munster fan, I do not want Leicester to win. The Leinster team are basically Ireland, so I'll support Leinster as much as a Munster man can.
That's the point. It's a World Cup year. Would you not want the Leinster players to be continuing to win and win and win and keep that winning momentum, Jerry? I know you love it.
I do think there is a bit of a difference between Irish and English teams, I won't lie.
Yeah, you don't want Leicester to win. It's an English team.
I'm just saying, then you're not a Munster fan.
I'm not a Munster. Well, I'm not a Munster fan. I'm from Monaghan.
Exactly. So
Yeah, but I'm not from Leinster either. I'm not supporting Leicester this weekend.
No, but
I want Leinster to win.
It's kind of an irrelevance to you in a way.
Why?
Because it's not your first sport.
No,
if rugby is your first sport and your nearest rival is crushing you with grinding, automatic, mechanical relentlessness, and you're going to sit there and watch them parade the trophy, it looks like, in their home stadium with a team that's going to last forever.
Munster fans are weeping somewhere.
I feel sorry for Munster and all this.
Right.
Siege mentality.
The rest of the show is Dan McDonald on The Football Show. Have a wicked Wednesday.